What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to an extra episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbine, and before I head down to UPMC Rooney Sports Complex for the final time during the 2025 NFL Draft, I'm coming to you live at youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Make sure to check me out anywhere you get your audio downloads, All Steelers Talk, and check out all of my written work, including everything from this weekend and what is to come in the future at si.com/NFL/Steelers. We are here right now. We're diving into Caleb Johnson and how the Pittsburgh Steelers somehow pulled off an even better NFL draft through day one and day two than we ever expected to happen. No matter who your mock was or what your mock said or what experts you rely on during the NFL draft process, the Pittsburgh Steelers went into the 2025 NFL draft and they had their eyes on multiple positions. They knew how and what they wanted to do to improve their football team, but they did not think that they were going to be able to pull it all off. Well, here we are. The NFL draft is 2 days in. There's 1 day to go, and the Pittsburgh Steelers are about to walk out of here with, in my eyes, to have 6 picks, the perfect NFL draft. We're diving into that, who Caleb Johnson is, how impressive Caleb Johnson is as a running back, and, well, Shadur Sanders is still on the board. Somehow, the biggest name in the NFL draft has fallen to day 3, the biggest NFL draft slide I remember in recent memory, maybe throughout my entire life. Well, he's still out there. And I'm going to be honest, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers got a real shot to knock this thing out of the park and land a guy that in the first round they saw as an option, maybe in the 4th round, but to be honest, maybe later. We're diving into all that. Plus, I'm going to answer all your guys' questions. I do have to get out of here about 11:15, the absolute latest, so that I can get down to the South Side in time for round 4 to begin at noon Eastern time. So toss your questions in here. I'm going to answer as many of them as I possibly can before I got to go. I'll be brief on my side, and then we'll dive into you guys to get it going. Caleb Johnson, let me just read off some stats here. 1,537 yards, 21 rushing touchdowns, 6.4 yards per carry. Runs a zone running style, which is exactly what Arthur Smith loves to run, which is exactly what Arthur Smith had the success with when he was in Tennessee with Derrick Henry. And I'm going to be honest, I think Travion Henderson was my favorite running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers in this draft class, but I think Caleb Johnson was number 2. And I am pumped that the Pittsburgh Steelers got their hands on a guy that I view as immediately the future. Him and Jaylen Warren right off the rip, deadly combination of explosiveness, can run between the tackles, will punch you in the face, can pass block, can catch a little bit, can make big things happen. That is what the Pittsburgh Steelers got in Caleb Johnson to tag team with Jaylen Warren, who could already do all of those things. I mean, I expect Jaylen to be running back 1 this season, but I look at this and say Caleb Johnson was a home run hit at 83. And that was the craziest part about this, is that running backs started going in the 2nd round. Trey Henderson goes off the board. Quinshon Judkins goes off the board, which, look, at Cleveland Browns have a boatload of picks in this NFL draft, and they've done some okay things, but man, they have done some wild things in this NFL draft. But we're going to stick to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Quinshon Judkins opens the door for Caleb Johnson. RJ Harvey to the Denver Broncos opens the door to Caleb Johnson and the Pittsburgh Steelers. My dad is a Denver Broncos fan. We've been texting the entire time throughout the draft. They draft RJ Harvey. He's telling me he wants Caleb Johnson throughout the entire draft. Pittsburgh snags him at 83. The text message I get just says, fuck. That's it. That's who the Pittsburgh Steelers got. In my eyes, I did not in any realm of possibilities think that the Pittsburgh Steelers were going to walk into this NFL draft, be able to get Derrick Harmon at 21, which I think a lot of people saw coming. Easy pick. 21, Derrick Harmon, absolute stud. I mean, thoughts and prayers to his family right now, man. I got to briefly see him yesterday, and you could just kind of tell, like, you know, it's not the joyous NFL draft moment that you get out of these prospects and these players when they arrive in Pittsburgh. And I'm thinking about him. I think the entire Steelers nation is thinking about him. That's a kid that I'm ready to root for, that everybody should be ready to root for. That is a kid that I am pumped to have on the Pittsburgh Steelers roster, that I think is a phenomenal player, fits perfectly in what the Pittsburgh Steelers are trying to do defensively, but on top of that is playing with a bigger purpose than just football, and has always been playing with a bigger purpose than just football, and that's massive. That's a kid I'm excited to watch and thrive here in the city of Pittsburgh. But that's the easy one. 21, all right, Derrick Harmon's on the board. They're going to take Derrick Harmon. If it was Kenneth Grant, they were going to take Kenneth Grant. If it was Walter Nolan, they would have taken Walter Nolan. They wanted a defensive tackle. That was very clear. Throughout the entire process, that was very clear. In the second round, they got DK Metcalf, and everybody's talking trade-up possibilities, trade-up possibilities, trade-up possibilities. I said they'd trade up for a running back. That's what I thought that they'd go get. If they wanted a player in the second round, it was going to be a running back. It wasn't going to be Jalen Milroe. It wasn't going to be Shadur Sanders. It wasn't going to be a wide receiver. It was going to be a running back. I thought Trey Henderson, Judkins, maybe Caleb Johnson, all on the board for them, all options. Henderson goes early. Judkins goes early. You're looking at it going, all right, the board's shaking out. The Steelers either got to make a move or they got to be very accepting with what's going to come in the third round. When RJ Harvey went off the board to Denver, lights went off and everything just went, holy crap. They're going to do this. They're going to get Caleb Johnson at 83, a draft pick nobody should have allowed to happen. Caleb Johnson is not a top 83 player in this draft. He's a top 50 player in this draft. That's a steal at 83, a massive steal for what you're getting. A dude who's got phenomenal power, who will punch you in the mouth, who again, 1,500 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 6.4 yards per carry. The Pittsburgh Steelers have had the worst yards per carry in the NFL since Najee Harris showed up. That's huge. In every mock draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers had a quarterback in the third round or a wide receiver or running back, but it was a very unimpressive 83rd pick. Caleb Johnson is the most impressive pick you can come up with for the Pittsburgh Steelers. From there, everybody's looking at the quarterback and going, what comes next? And should they take Shadur, and would they have made a move? Well, again, shout out to Cleveland Browns, man, because I don't know what they see in Dylan Gabriel, but I don't see Dylan Gabriel as a better option than Shadur Sanders. I see the Seattle Seahawks taking Jalen Milroe and going, that's a good pick. It's a really good pick. I would have taken Jalen Milroe over Shadur at 83, no questions asked. But Dylan Gabriel, no chance. Tyler Shuck, no chance. No chance. The Pittsburgh Steelers are walking into day 3, the 123rd pick in the NFL draft, and they still have a shot at Shadur. And I'm going to be honest with you, it would surprise me if they don't get him. If they do not end up with Shadur Sanders, I will be surprised. Why is he falling? That's the easiest question to answer. Shadur comes with the circus, a loud one, a super, super loud circus as a rookie. Not all of it's him. A lot of it's his dad. His dad is killing his draft stock. I'm going to be very honest in this situation. That is all I've heard for the last 2 days, is how bad Deion Sanders and his nonstop talk is killing Shadur Sanders' draft stock around the NFL, because it's clear what comes with Shadur Sanders. And that is that you are going to get comments every single week when his dad is at a podium in Colorado talking to the media. That is a megaphone to say, I'm allowed to say whatever I want about whatever I want. And I'm going to talk about my kid not playing well or the team not playing well or something, but I'm going to say something about my child who's in the NFL and make that NFL team deal with it. The second one is, when you sit here today, dude, Shadur Sanders is a kid that teams had late first round grades on, but late first round grade at a quarterback is a third round grade. It's what it is. If you're going 21st in the NFL quarterback, if you're playing defensive tackle, you're going in the third round. And you guys could have the same grade, but it's a different position. You weigh it differently. Teams look at Shadur Sanders as a backup with upside. And you're not taking a backup with upside and putting him out there and it being the loudest backup of all time. Shadur Sanders is going to surpass the Tim Tebow crowd. He's going to surpass the Johnny Manziel crowd. Shadur's going to go into any team and be the loudest player there. And the farther he drops, the louder it becomes. Because in round one, Shadur Sanders is potentially the next franchise quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. In round four, Shadur Sanders is an underdog who was passed up in the draft, who Stephen A. Smith is always going to be talking about, who Josina Anderson is always going to be talking about, who ESPN and Fox Sports and CBS and NFL Network and everybody else is always going to be talking about this underdog who got passed up, who at one point was the number one pick in the draft and somehow fell to the fourth or the fifth or the sixth round. That's how loud this is going to become. Teams don't want that. The Cleveland Browns don't want that. The Seattle Seahawks don't want that. The Las Vegas Raiders don't want that. The Pittsburgh Steelers probably don't care. They're probably sitting here going, who the hell cares about Shadur Sanders and the noise? Not us. We're great with noise. We've always been great with noise. And the Pittsburgh Steelers being able to get Shadur in the fourth is fine, because the Pittsburgh Steelers probably view Shadur as that perfect prospect who in a year might be able to compete for the starting job. But he's not going to beat a Gus Newsomer or an Archie Manning or whoever they somehow pull off in the 2026 NFL draft, which at this point, does everybody finally believe me that they're going to the 2026 NFL draft and that's where they're going to get their quarterback? The Pittsburgh Steelers are looking at it and saying, we're fine. We could deal with the noise. We're totally okay with the noise. Why? Because we've handled noise. Noise is all over the place. We are the Pittsburgh Steelers. For some reason, we attract noise constantly. Constantly. They'll be able to dim that down. No issues at all. I would be shocked if Shadur Sanders doesn't end up being a Pittsburgh Steeler today. Would be shocked. And to get him in the fourth round, steal. Absolute steal. Now, I'll tell you this. If Shadur wasn't there, the Steelers are taking Kyle McCord or Will Howard. Easy. And it would not surprise me if either one of those guys is their pick and they wait until the fifth. But if they're taking a quarterback in the fourth, they're taking Shadur Sanders. If they're taking a quarterback in the fifth, Shadur might still be there. Nobody wants this guy. At all, nobody wants this guy. The Steelers would take him. And it's either going to be the fourth or the fifth. But if they get an opportunity, they'll wait it out and they'll go Will Howard, Kyle McCord. They're very comfortable with those guys. But I'm telling you right now, my guess for today is pick 127 or 123, excuse me. Number 2 out of Colorado. The quarterback with the loudest noise, the loudest fourth round pick in NFL history. That is what he's going to be. And that's wild. But the Pittsburgh Steelers are all about it. Doesn't change anything. And to be honest with you, it's clear as day that Aaron Rodgers is coming to the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's clear as day that Aaron Rodgers is coming to the Pittsburgh Steelers. No questions asked. I would be shocked if he's not here before OTAs. And I'm going to be on. I'll put my stamp on that one. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be here before OTAs. I do. Just everything going on right now, all the noise, Aaron Rodgers is going to be here soon. That's my guess. That's my guess. All right. I just talked for 15 minutes. I told you guys I'm not taking up too much time because you guys deserve to have your questions answered. Like I said, I got to head out of here about 11:15, the absolute latest. So I'll be off before 11:15 Eastern time. Until then, toss your questions in the chat. I'm going to get to all of them. Shout out to our members. Shout out to our super chatters. I appreciate everybody who's on a Saturday morning, man. I know we're all enjoying this time. I'm pumped. I'm ready to get back down there. I'm pretty much bleeding coffee at this point. I think I've slept for a total of 8 hours in the last 2 days, but we're having a great time. Great time. And for everybody who's saying, why are you drinking coffee through a straw? I got the caps on the teeth, man. I can't be messing it up. All right, we're going to start it off here. Good old Stephen Cornfield. Wait. What's wrong with Sanders? Do we get Quinn Ewers? I'll say this. Quinn Ewers was the guy to watch because I thought it was going to be him, Will Howard, and Kyle McCord late in the third round, fourth round maybe. And the Steelers weren't going to go quarterback that early. Where we sit here today, my list for the Pittsburgh Steelers is Shadur Sanders, Will Howard, Kyle McCord, Quinn Ewers. Those are the names to watch because the Steelers have built a big respect for Kyle McCord. Will Howard is constantly been on their list. Shadur Sanders, man. Shadur had a late first round grade. He was a dude that they were very comfortable getting at 83. They would have been pumped about it, except for the fact that Caleb Johnson was there and no way in hell they thought that they were going to get him. Now, what's wrong with Shadur? I just went through it all, but I'll give you a little recap here. If Dion never said a word and promised that he would never talk about Shadur Sanders would be drafted tomorrow. If Stephen A. Smith didn't tweet about Shadur Sanders, comparing him to Colin Kaepernick and all these other things, Shadur would be drafted in a moment, earlier, much earlier. But that is what's happening. Shadur is not the loud one. That's the worst part about this. That's the only part where you got to feel a little bit bad for the kid, is that he's trying to live out his NFL dream. He's busted his butt to get here. If his name isn't Shadur Sanders, he's a third round pick. He's going where Tyler Shuck's going. But his name is Shadur Sanders, and everybody wants to talk about it. And Stephen A. wants to make money off of it. And his dad wants to defend him, which I get, but it's just noise that teams do not want. None of them. And it's clear as day they don't want them. He's not getting blackballed. The NFL is telling his dad and Stephen A. and everybody else to shut up, to stop talking. And you're going to help this kid out if you stop talking. That's what they're doing. That's what's coming with this. It's nothing against Shadur, man. I mean, I've heard that Shadur didn't have, in the last 24 hours, I've heard that Shadur's interviews weren't great with a lot of teams. The Steelers weren't one of them, but it was a lot of this kid's not incredibly impressive to the point where we're going to draft him with the noise. But again, dude, if you weren't incredibly impressive, but you were super accurate and your name was Joe Smith, you'd be a second round pick. That's what's wrong with Shadur Sanders. Logan, hey, Noah, first time catching the live show. Love the content, buddy. Thoughts on quarterback in round 4 with a wide receiver in the 5th and a second lineman to finish it off? I think a second defensive lineman is much so on their radar right now. I think a wide receiver is on their radar, but to be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if wide receiver gets passed up in this draft. I wouldn't. I think that they're falling. They look at it and say, George Pickens is still here. Roman Wilson's coming back. Calvin Austin's going to take a step forward. Like, all of these things are adding up, and the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be at a place where they have wide receivers. Do they need another 4th? Do they need another wide receiver 4 on the roster? Probably not. So I think that if it was earlier, that's what they were aiming for, but it didn't shake out that way, which that's okay. Right now, the Steelers are through 2 days. Their NFL draft is Derrick Harmon, DK Metcalf, Caleb Johnson. Not bad. Not bad at all. When it comes to the other positions, I think safety and corner are sleepers on this final day. Donovan McMillan, Dan Jackson, excuse me. I thought Wally out of Minnesota was the name to watch. It's not. Kobe Bryant out of Kansas is a name to watch. There are going to be corners and safeties that make a run today. The Steelers might have their eyes on a couple of them. Quarterback in round 4. Look, it depends on how the board shakes up, because if Will Howard, if Kyle McCord are still there at 123 and nobody's taking a quarterback, nobody's even thinking about it, the Steelers might say, screw it, we're going to wait till the 5th. Why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we wait till the 5th? But I do think that right now they're saying, why would we not draft Shadur? But everybody's playing Shadur chicken. That's what's happening. They're playing Shadur chicken, and the Steelers want to win it. And they could push this out. Look, if the Steelers are the only team in the NFL that wants Shadur Sanders, they'll wait till the 7th round. Nobody else is going to take him. Why would they? If they could get him late, doesn't matter. Kenny Smith Music, why are they waiting on a 42-year-old quarterback? Makes no sense. I think it makes a ton of sense, to be honest. I mean, it didn't make sense when Justin Fields was on the table or Sam Darnold was an option or whatever. If you had another option, great. But I mean, right now, Aaron, throughout this entire process, Aaron's a much better option than Shadur Sanders. He's a much better option than Jalen Milroe or Tyler Shuck. Like, he's a much better option than Mason Rudolph. Aaron Rodgers is hands down the Steelers' best option, has been the Steelers' best option. Do I think them getting here was the right move? No, not at all. I would have stuck it out. I would have made Justin work. Somehow or another, I would have made Justin work. But the Steelers are looking at it going, right now, we don't have options. Aaron Rodgers is hands down the best one on the table for them. Without question, the best one on the table for them. And he's going to come. I mean, look, there's been he had a deadline 2 days before the draft. I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that at all. There's been no communication. I didn't hear that either. Didn't hear that either. So I don't know what's going on with Aaron and the Steelers, but I do expect it to come very soon. Very soon. And by very soon, I don't mean like today or tomorrow. I mean, like, soon, somewhat soon. Aaron is the guy that, gives you at least some shot. And maybe it doesn't work out, but if you're throwing darts, your Mason Rudolph dart is not nearly as good as your Aaron Rodgers dart. And your Shadur Sanders dart might be worse than the two of them combined. So Aaron's the clear choice here. And he's been the clear choice. Do you think the Steelers can get Isaiah Bond, and what round? I don't know. Bond's got stuff going on, off the field stuff going on, and I don't think the Steelers are interested in that. It came up so late in the process that it's hard to sit here and say that a team did a full investigation in this amount of time. I would imagine Bond goes undrafted. I would. If I had to guess, I think Bond goes undrafted. If not, like a late 7th, but at that point, teams aren't taking a risk on him. Like, the later it goes, Mike Green kind of hit that perfect mark where, like, if he went any further, teams would have just said, we all have to pass on him, because him in the 5th doesn't make us look good. Because at that point, we're just saying, well, is there, like, you can't pass up that value. Isaiah Bond's kind of the same thing. Like, Isaiah Bond is probably a 2nd-round pick, and the fact that he's still going and is pretty low on boards, it's because of the off-the-field stuff. And I'm, innocent until proven guilty, but the NFL is probably doing investigations. Teams are probably doing investigations. I don't know where they are in that process, and I don't think the Steelers are interested in that. Maybe, but especially if they go Shadur, Isaiah Bond is a bad PR day for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I just don't think it's going to happen. Nathan, hey Noah, first chat here. Shout out. What is so wrong about A-Rod? We need offense, and he can sling the ball better than Mason or Sanders. No matter what anyone thinks, I would rather A-Rod throw to DK and George Pickens. First off, welcome to the chat, man. Shout out. I'm glad. I love the Saturdays and even the Sunday after the game chats, because it gives everybody like an opportunity to jump on here who's working. And I appreciate you guys for real. Definitely. When it comes to Aaron Rodgers, like I said, man, I agree with you. He's their best option. He's been their best option. Do I think Aaron Rodgers goes and wins the Pittsburgh Steelers a Super Bowl? No, but I don't think there's a chance in the darkest place humanly possible for Aaron Rodgers or for Mason Rudolph to go out and win the Pittsburgh Steelers a Super Bowl. I don't think there's any chance a rookie Shadur Sanders or a rookie Jackson Dart was ever going to win the Pittsburgh Steelers a Super Bowl or come anywhere close to winning them a Super Bowl. It was just going to be problems and issues and problems and issues and hiccups and hiccups and hiccups. That's what we were looking at. Aaron Rodgers is 41 years old. He's a 4-time MVP, and maybe he sucks. Maybe he's terrible. Maybe he shows up and he's got nothing left in the tank and he's atrocious and it's over. The career's done. Got to hang it up, pal. But if he's good, his upside, even at 41 years old, even coming off a 5-win season with the New York Jets, even coming off an Achilles, is still higher than Mason Rudolph's and Shadur Sanders in 2025. And Jalen Milroe's and Jackson Darts and Tyler Shucks and all the other quarterback options. Was it higher than Justin Fields? No. Was it higher than Russell Wilson? Probably. Joe Flacco, probably. Kenny Pickett, I don't know. Maybe. But Aaron Rodgers, where we sit today, is by far the Steelers' best shot in 2025. Again, I don't know if it works, but I do know that he is, without doubt, the guy that they should be leaning on. And that they're trying to build their team. That's the biggest part of this. They're trying to build their team through the ground, through DK, through the defense. They want everybody else to look at this and say, this is how they're going to win. It's not going to be Aaron Rodgers. He's not coming here to be a savior. He's coming here to be a quarterback. That's what he's doing. Darian, if anyone remembers that Dougnificent said, what Dougnificent said when he was recalling his childhood, that's how I feel about Shadur dropping this far. I actually don't know what that means, but I kind of hope I do at some point. Stephen Cornfield, sorry, did not mean to disrespect you like that this morning. Who starts RB2, Caleb or Kenneth? Yeah, it's going to be Caleb Johnson. Kenneth's a come off the bench, be a kick returner, be a pass catcher, but it's going to be all three of these guys. They're all going to work. They're all going to have their parts in the offense. Jalen's going to be the guy, but there's not going to be a bell cow this year. This is not going to be Najee taking 65% of the snaps, 70% of the snaps. This is going to be a 51-52 split, Jalen takes 40, Caleb takes 40, Kenneth takes 10 or 20. That's what it's going to be. Like, that's where we're at with the running back situation in Pittsburgh, and I think it works so well. David, Sanders and Horn for next pick sounds like a steal. Jimmy Horn, man, the Steelers love Jimmy Horn. I think you could get him as an undrafted guy. I do. I would go Horton out of Colorado State. Very close. But the Steelers love Jimmy Horn. You're spot on there. They've loved Jimmy Horn throughout this entire process. I would be shocked if at some point Jimmy Horn becomes a Steeler. I don't know when it's going to be, but it is going to happen. Like, unless another team takes him early, the Steelers are going to get their hands on Jimmy Horn. I would imagine the 7th undrafted. I don't think he goes higher than the 7th to any team in the NFL. If he does, I would be surprised. But I do think the Steelers love him. We've talked wide receivers, Emeka Egbuka, Jimmy Horn. Like, as wild as that is, those were the two our wide receivers everybody talked about the Pittsburgh Steelers the entire draft process. Nate Moore, seems like their plan was always to draft a late quarterback, but do we think they expected Shadur to be there still? No chance. No chance. There was real contemplation of... Sorry. We don't use the R word in this chat. Just giving a heads up. Just giving a PSA here. We don't use that word. When it comes to Shadur, they really did think that he could be a first-round pick. They really contemplated taking him at 21. Mike Tomlin wanted him at 21. He did. The Steelers as a whole said the value's not going to be there. The value's not going to be there. Let's go Harmon. Other teams aren't going to take him either. We'll see how the board falls. The second the Giants traded back up and took Jackson Dart, the Pittsburgh Steelers' eyes lit up and said, Sanders is going to fall. Sanders is going to drop. And when the second round went through and Sanders wasn't taken, and then the Browns didn't take him in the third, the Steelers sat there and said, Sanders is dropping far. Far. I'm telling you, I think where we stand today, it is the Rams, who might take him, and the Raiders, who I think are much less of a threat to take him, where we sit today. The Steelers did not expect him to fall this far, but now that he's here, they're looking at it going, how far can he fall? Because it could probably be pretty far before they have to get him. And if they take him in the 4th, great. That's good value. But when it comes to 5th, 6th, 7th round, it's the Rams at this point. That's who they're competing with, is the Rams. Steeler Lee, we've taken care of our needs. Let's get Sanders. Again, I think I'd be surprised if Shadur Sanders doesn't end up a Pittsburgh Steeler today. I would be. I don't think that they're thrilled about it, but I do think that they're looking at it going, we can handle the noise, man. We can handle the noise. I think every team looked at it the same way and said, look it, if the Steelers, if Shadur Sanders is a first round pick, there's noise, but it's not a bunch of noise. If Shadur Sanders is a second round pick, there's noise, but there's not a bunch of noise. If Shadur Sanders is a third round pick, there's a lot of noise. Shadur in the fourth, ton of noise. Fifth, insane noise. Somehow this dude goes undrafted, which don't rule it out. Wild noise, like the craziest noise ever. Teams are a little scared of that. They don't want that for a backup quarterback. Pittsburgh's looking at it going, yeah, man, whatever. We can handle the noise. We've always handled the noise. And nothing's changed. And nothing's going to change when it comes to Shadur Sanders and everybody else. Stephen Cornfield, if they get Shadur in the fourth, do you think the Steelers are on track for an A- grade draft? What would you rank the pick so far? I'm giving them an A+, man. A+. They've smoked this draft. You're looking at it going, DK Metcalf in the second. Best second round pick ever. Ever. You have to factor that in. Derrick Harmon at 21, in my eyes, steal. I think Derrick Harmon's a stud. I think if there's no shoulder injury, he's a top 15 pick in the draft. 21, easy. And I have heard that from more than the Steelers, that teams around the league like Derrick Harmon in the top 15. But the shoulder injury became a thing. Caleb Johnson's a top 50 player. And I'm going to put that. Caleb Johnson has potential to be, shout out to Ashton Genty, man. That guy's a freak. But Caleb Johnson has potential to be the second best running back in this draft. And I'm all serious when I say that. Second best potential in the NFL. Or not second best potential. Has potential to become the second best running back in this draft class. DK Metcalf's a stud. If you end up with Shadur Sanders in the fourth round, how'd you do this? How'd you pull this off? I think right now the Steelers at an A. I'm not even giving them an A-. I think it's an A. They're killing it. The board is falling exactly how they were. It takes a couple of teams with bad grades to get them a good grade, but it's working out in their favor, man. It's working out in their favor. Grayson the Ginger, hey Noah, give it to us straight because we are going to play start, bench, cut. Shadur Sanders, Will Howard, Quinn Ewers. You're starting Shadur Sanders. You're benching Will Howard, man. I think Quinn Ewers has a stronger arm, but I don't think he's got more upside than Will Howard. I think Will Howard at least has some potential that you could maybe untap at this point. Quinn Ewers worries me that he's maxed out, he was a dude who peaked in high school. That's what I'm a little bit worried about. Shadur Sanders, though, with ease, I'd go Shadur Sanders. This is a good one. Shadur, Will Howard, Quinn, right in the order. Maddie, if we draft Shadur, is he considered our backup? Yes. And he's considered the Steelers' long-term backup. That's what Shadur is. Shadur at this point is a QB2 in the NFL. I don't know if he'll ever become a QB1 or if he'll get an opportunity to become a QB1, but it's not going to be in Pittsburgh this year. That's not going to happen. Shadur probably wouldn't even start over Mason. But where we stand right now, Shadur is a backup for whoever they draft next year for the next, hopefully, 10 years. That's what the Steelers are hoping for in this situation. All right, let's keep it trucking here. Has Mason ever had a chance to run an offense with this much talent? No, but I also think in the case of Mason Rudolph and everybody being like, Mason's got so much talent left. He's 29 years old. I think at some point even if you haven't gotten that opportunity, your talent is maxed out. And I'm not sold that he's going to be a guy that turns into a superstar. I hope he does. I like Mason Rudolph. But where we stand today, I'm just not sold that he's going to be a long-term superstar in the NFL. All right, one sec. Got to answer some messages here as other things are going out. Unlimited moon balls. Only guarantees in life. Steelers winning season and Steelers sticking with their draft board. Just call Omar chef's kiss from now on. When it comes to Omar and this draft board, man, there are always going to be questions about if the Pittsburgh Steelers are good, if Omar Khan's good, what you trade their drafts. Broderick Jones, man. Broderick Jones is the only one that comes with like a massive question mark that maybe you wouldn't have traded up if you could do it again. Maybe you would have been okay going a different direction, whatever. Besides that, Omar Khan is killing it in these NFL drafts. Killing it in these NFL drafts. Omar Khan is a stud, my friend. And he's getting real good at not answering questions, which is pissing me off a little bit, but I've told him that. But damn, he's good. He's so good. It's great to see. I love Omar. He's a good dude. Shout out to Omar Khan, man. And you're right. Death, taxes, Steelers going 9 wins. With these, the Steelers going 9 wins. All right. Noah Albert Breer from Sports Illustrated. Shout out Albert Breer. Speaking on Sanders, Breer said that he had teams told him that when Sanders came in for a visit, he told them, I don't think I'm a fit here. I have heard the same thing. And that is awful. But I'm telling you, that's why he's fallen, man. It's not good. It's not real great, and I think that that's what's going on here is the Steelers like Shadur Sanders. And I've heard good things about Shadur Sanders, but I've also heard that Shadur made a butt of himself to a couple of people, and it's fallen. It's why he's fallen. William, who does Caleb Johnson remind you of? Fantastic question. I was talking to Mike Brazuta last night, who is the expert in Michigan State football when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers media room. You want to know who he reminds him of? You want to know who Caleb Johnson reminds himself of? Le'Veon Bell. That is the player comparison. And Brazuta said, spot on. Exact same player. Patient, powerful, doesn't have the craziest speed in the world, but could do exactly what you need him to do. That's awesome. I think Caleb Johnson's a stud, guys. An absolute stud. Like he was above Quinshon Judkins on my board. At a time, he was above Omarion Hampton on my board. I think he's a stud. Absolute stud. The Steelers got a great player at 83. A great player. Do you think this humbles the Sanders family? Good question. No, I don't. I wish I could say yes, but the easy answer here is it does not. And it's just more noise, man, because you got the Stephen A's, you got the Josina Andersons hyping them up, saying constantly like, this is bad for the NFL. I can't believe the NFL is doing this to them. Like that's only building that's only building their noise, their nonsense. That's what's happening here. And I've heard Deion's a good dude, man, but yikes. That's all I gotta say is yikes. All right. Looking for a last one or two here before I gotta head out. Unfortunately, I wish I could stay on all day, guys. It would be awesome, but I gotta get down there for the first round or for the first pick of the noon kickoff for round 4. All right, scrolling through. You guys are awesome, man. You guys are awesome. All right, we'll toss this one. This one won't be one of the two, but this is a good one. Start bench cut televised. The draft, the preseason, or the Pat McAfee show. I'm starting the draft. The draft's awesome. I'm benching the Pat McAfee show. I like the Pat McAfee show. I got no issues with the Pat McAfee show. And the preseason's a joke, man. Like it is. It's fun if you're like real into the team and it's fun for me. You know what I mean? Like, because I know how I could find and hopefully I make it fun for you guys, but the way I've always looked at it is it's my job to find and create the preseason heroes. That's my job, is to go through training camp and let you guys know, watch this guy and love this guy because he's a stud and he's not getting the recognition. So it's fun for me to like be able to like help these guys out. And I tell them, you know what I mean? Like I'll tell them like, yo, dude, I'm Calvin Austin a couple of years ago. Jaylen Warren, when I remember talking to Jaylen Warren, he fumbled in practice. He was carrying around a football for like 3 days. And I went up to him and I was like, yo, dude, I'm just letting you know, I'm going to let the whole world know that you got a baby football going on and that you're awesome. And he laughed and he smiled. He's like, thanks, I appreciate it. And to me, that's a good time. But I'm like, overall, not the greatest. Not the greatest. All right. We're going to rock it out with this one. Soapy Nugget. Do you see us drafting Torrey Holton? I do. I like Torrey Holton. I think he's a stud. I think he dealt with an injury last year, and that kind of tanked his draft stock. But the wide receivers are not flying off the board the way that I thought they were going to, and they're going in strange orders. I did not expect Kyle Williams to go yesterday. He went great. Awesome. Good for him. Always pro player, but I didn't see it coming. Torrey Holton's a good dude, man, and I think the Steelers do have some interest in him. They have had some interest in him. If he's there at the right time, I would imagine the 5th round is when they start thinking wide receiver, maybe. But I'm telling you, defensive tackle or defensive back, corner, those are positions to watch right now for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then quarterback. But Torrey Holton's been on a short list of late round options for the Steelers. I know that. Torrey Holton, Jimmy Horn are probably 1-2 on their list. Horton might fall. He might go earlier than anticipated. That would hurt the Steelers, but if he falls to the 5th, 6th, maybe even 7th round, I could see him on the Pittsburgh Steelers board. I think he's great. I think he's got phenomenal body control, decent speed. Like he's got good size. If he wasn't dealing with going to Colorado State and some injuries, he'd be in a real good spot. Real good. Much better than he's in today. Much better than he's in today. All right, guys. With that said, I do have to head out of here. I got to head back down to the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex to bring you guys everything that's going on throughout day 3 of the NFL draft. But I can't tell you how much I appreciate you guys jumping onto this live stream with me today, diving into the Pittsburgh Steelers' first 2 days of the draft and what hopefully comes today. With that said, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Can't thank you guys enough for hitting that subscribe button. Become a member if you want to by checking or clicking the link in the description below. Find all of the podcasts anywhere you get your audio downloads. Go give us that 5-star review. Hit that audio download on Apple. I can't thank you guys enough for that. I keep telling you, by the end of the year, I'm trying to be top 10 on the Steelers. That's the goal, is to look at Chris Carter next to me and go, yo, Doug, me and you, brother, me and you. And throughout all of today and the rest of the weekend, you can find all of my work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. With that said, everybody enjoy it. Today's going to be hectic. The Steelers have some picks. It's a good time. Shadur Sanders, man, still on the board. We will see what happens. But as always, it's a rainy one, but it's day 3 of the draft. It's a beautiful one. Go enjoy it. Go enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.